All right, boys and girls, today we're going to be reading a poem called When I Grow Up. But first, before we start, I want to talk to you guys about reading a poem. Remember, poetry is like digging for treasure. The poet doesn't come out and tell you things. The author wants you to figure it out. You slowly go through the poem, reading it line by line. Read the poem for meaning. Read it again for a deeper meaning. Read it again, but this time looking for things like figurative language, rhyming words, repeated words, metaphors, similes, and other words that stand out to you. It does have some rhythm. Try to read it out loud to see. What feeling do you get from reading the poem? Does it make sense? What is the message of the poem? If the words are too hard to understand, take time to look up the meaning of the words. The poem will make much more sense. Now reread the poem looking for hidden meanings. This is the fun part, like being a detective. You guys, I really want you guys to dig deeper. Remember, it's like finding treasure. What is the poet really trying to say? If the poem is hard to understand, put it down and go back and do it another time. Most of all, poetry is about having fun. I want you guys to enjoy this poem. I really think that you guys will. Okay, so first of all, this is my title, When I Grow Up. Let's think. What could this poem possibly be about? Well, when I grow up, you guys have been asked that question probably about a million times. What do you want to be when you grow up? These are some questions that I want you guys to think as we're reading this, all right? The other direction I want you guys to see is, who is William Wise? I challenge you guys to look him up on Google today and try to see who he is. I would make sure that I write When I Grow Up by William Wise and then write who is William Wise in the search bar. So right now, you guys know just as well as I do that now comes the crucial time of labeling my lines and my stanzas. So you're going to go through and label all your lines. Now, Miss Jordan has always told you guys that multiplication and division is a very important skill that you're going to need for your life. We call that a lifelong skill. Now, let's go and use that lifelong skill with multiplication here. I have 28 lines. Divided by 7 stanzas, how many lines do I have in each stanza? You want me to ask you again? Perfect. Okay, I have 28 lines and 7 stanzas. How many lines are in each stanza? Okay, well, good question. Do I have a total? Yes, I do. My total is 28. So my number has to be smaller than 28. So I can use 2 signs to get it smaller, which is multiplication or division. Apologize. Goodness gracious, it's because we're learning about multiplication and division. I can either use subtraction or division. But if I subtract 28 minus 7, it's going to give me 21, and I know that I don't have 21 lines in each stanza. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 28 lines, I'm going to divide it by 7 stanzas, and I'm going to get 4 lines in each stanza. Great job, boys and girls. Now, we know that lines, I have 28. Stanzas, I have 7. Do we know what type of poem this is yet? Nope. But I do know the genre. What is the genre of this text? And how do we know? That's right. It's poetry. Why is it poetry? That's right, because it's organized in lines and stanzas. Very important that you guys remember that. Okay, so I have my type of poem, I have my stanzas, I have my lines. I need author's purpose now. Okay, author's purpose. So now let's talk about this. So now I'm going to read. Oh, that's right. Somebody just told me I need my 3 squares. Great job, guys. I can read your mind, by the way. So let's go read this together. When I grow up. When I grow up, I think I'll be a detective with a skeleton key. Ooh. I could be a soldier and a sailor, too. I'd be a keeper at the public zoo. I'll own a trumpet and I'll play a tune, and I'll keep a spaceship to explore the moon. I'll be a cowboy and live in the saddle. I'll be a guide with a canoe and paddle. I'd like to be the driver on a diesel train, and it must be fun, run a building crane. I think that's supposed to be or run, not row run. So make that a or. See, even writers make mistakes. All right. I'll live in a lighthouse and guard the shore, and I'll know I'll want to be a dozen things more. For the more a boy lives, the more a boy learns. I'll think I'll be all of them by taking turns. So we read that one time. Miss Jordan had a hard time with that. And that's okay, because you guys kind of get the rhythm of things. So if you remember, when we read the second time, we're going to go through the second time. And we're going to read it again for deeper, for meaning. Let's go and read it for meaning. When I grow up, I think I'll be a detective with a skeleton key. I could be a soldier and a sailor too. I'd like to be a keeper at the public zoo. I'll own a trumpet, I'll play a tune, I'll keep a spaceship to explore the moon. I'll be a cowboy and live in the saddle. I'll be a guide with a canoe and paddle. I'd like to be a driver on a diesel train, and it must be fun or run a building crane. I'll live in a lighthouse and guard the shore, and I'll know what I want to be a dozen things more. For the more a boy lives, the more a boy learns. I'll be all of them by taking turns. Again, you can kind of understand and see that even as adults, we get our tongue tied. It's okay. So now we're going to read the third time. The third time we're going to read for a deeper meaning. So let's talk about what the first meaning is. What do we think this poem's about? Well, we see the words grow up, right? So we know he must be a little boy, right? And we know that because he says at the bottom, for the more a boy lives, the more a boy learns. What does that mean? The more that a boy lives, the more a boy learns. Think, when you were in kindergarten, right? And they asked you that question, what do you want to be when you grow up? You probably said a fireman or a policeman or a teacher, or these are normally professions that little kids choose. Not because it's a bad thing, just because you study community helpers in kindergarten, and you guys get a little bit more susceptible to what those jobs entail. But as time goes by and your interests change, see, as you get older, you experience more life experiences and you want to become something different, and that's perfectly fine. But that's the point, is that once you get older, the more that you learn and the more that you may change and decide to be something else. So that's just kind of neither here or there. I just kind of want to talk to you guys about meaning. Okay, so we're going to read it for the third time. This time should be better. Remember that? When I grow up. When I grow up, I'll think I'll be a detective with a skeleton key. I could be a soldier and a sailor too. I like to be a keeper at the public zoo. I'll own a trumpet and I'll play a tune. So I'll keep a spaceship to explore the moon. I'll be a cowboy and live in the saddle. I'll be a guide with a canoe and paddle. I like to be the driver on a diesel train. It must be fun, or run a building crane. Or I'll live in a lighthouse and guard the shore. And I know that I want to be a dozen things more. For the more a boy lives, the more a boy learns. And I think I'll be all of them by taking turns. Okay, so at the end of the poem, I've read that now 3 times. What does it mean by taking turns? What does it mean if you take turns being different things? What do you think he's doing? That's right. He's thinking about just trying different things. Have you ever, when you were little, did you ever play dress up and try to be different things and use your imagination? Yes, right? That's what I think he's doing here. He's using his imagination. He's coming up with different professions and just thinking of how, and pretending of how, maybe it would be to be one of those things. Like right here, when he says, so I'm going to box all the things he says he's going to be. So he says he's going to be a detective. He says he's going to be a soldier. He says he's going to be a sailor. He says he's going to be a keeper. He says he's going to own a trumpet, so a trumpet player. He says he's going to keep a spaceship, so right here he's going to be an astronaut, right? He's going to be a cowboy. He's going to be a guide. We'll talk about what that guide is. We're going to be a driver on a diesel train. So remember, not just a driver, he's going to drive the train. And he's also going to run a building crane. Those are 2 different things. So we'll talk about that. He's going to live in the lighthouse and guard the shore. And he knows he wants to be a dozen things more. Okay? These are things he wants to do. Now, do I have any rhyming words? Did y'all guys see any rhyming words in this poem? Any rhyming words? I did. I have bee and key. I have to and zoo. I have tune and moon. Saddle, paddle. Fun, oh sorry, not fun. Train and crane. Shore and more. Learns and turns. Do I have a rhyming pattern? Do I have a rhyming pattern? I do. So right here, sorry, I'm trying to do this with one hand. Rhyming pattern. Lines 2 and 4 rhyme. Let's see, 6 and 8. 10 and 12. 14 and 16. Ooh, do y'all guys see a pattern? I do. Super cool. These are all even numbers. Look, they're counting by 2s. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28. Every other line is rhyming. Now, what type of poem is this? Okay, it's lyrical. It's a lyrical poem because it sounds like a song. And the author's purpose is to do what, do you think? To tell the readers what he wants to be when he grows up. Now, we're going to do some different things with this poem really quick. So we're going to flip over on the back and answer some questions. Okay? So, let's think about this for a minute. Well, we don't have to look. We don't have to turn to the back. I'm sorry. Let's think about this for a minute. So the author's purpose was to tell us what he wants to be when he grows up. And I looked at down here at the bottom, and I can infer that the author is talking about taking turns, that he's going to pretend that he's all of these professions. All right, so right now, I would like you guys to take a break. You're going to go onto YouTube and go ahead and watch this magnificent poem, When I Grow Up, and listen to it. It's a little Disney film with Peter Pan. And so it's fun. So just take a break and go listen to the poem. I hope that you guys had fun with this. You already knew what to do with this. I just took it a little further. All right, boys and girls, have a magnificent day. I'll see you guys at 12.